Alright, now we're going to build the different forms inside our page. So we're going to start with the sign up form. As you can see, this form is inside a model. So if you remember, we have covered models in the Bootstrap chapter. So to save time, I'm going to go back to the Bootstrap chapter and pick the models code from there and then customize it for our project. Okay, so the model starts there and ends there. Okay, so let's copy the code. And let's go back to our project folder. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to create a form and then place the model inside the form. So let's give the form a method post. Okay, we're going to have passwords inside our form. So we're going to use post, and also let's give it an ID that we're going to use later when we write some JavaScript code. Okay, now let's paste the model code there. Okay. Okay, so now let's customize the model to match the final page. So if we just refresh the page after saving. Okay, so at the moment, nothing will happen when we click on the button because we haven't linked the button to the model. Okay, so let's link the sign up button to our model. So to do this, we're going to need the ID of the model. So at the moment it's called my inquiry. So let's change that to sign up model. Okay. And let's go to the sign up button. So we're going to need to add a data attribute, which is data target, which will go to the ID of the model. Okay. And also we're going to need to add a data toggle, which we'll need to set to model. Okay, so let's save and refresh the page. Now if you click on the button, we can see our model. Now we'll need to customize this model to match the final one. So let's change the title. Okay. Okay, and also let's place all these inputs, okay, inside the body section of our model. Let's empty the body section first. Okay, and now we are ready to add our inputs. Okay, so each input is going to be inside a form group, okay, and the input itself is going to be a form control. So let's start with the first one, the username. So we're going to create a div of class form group. Okay, and inside the form group, we're going to create the inputs, which will take a class form control. Okay, so the type of our input for the username is going to be text. Okay, and we're going to give it a name, username. So we'll need the name later when we write PHP code, and let's add a placeholder username. and we can limit the maximum number of characters that the user is allowed to input using the max length property, and let's set that to 30. Okay, I'm gonna add a hidden label for assistive technology, so we're gonna use the label tag, and that's gonna be username. And to hide it, we are going to use the class SR only. But before we do that, let's use the for attributes and set it to the ID of the input. Okay, so let's add an ID to the input, username. So that's going to be for username. Okay, and we're going to add the class SR only to hide it. Okay, so let's save and refresh. Okay, so you can see our first inputs in there. Okay, so if we try, we can only put 30 characters. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing with the email input. Okay, so let's copy the first input and change everything to email. So the ID of the input is going to be email. The label is going to be email, and let's change everything here to email. And the maximum length, we're going to go for 50 characters. Okay. The placeholder is email address rather than email. Okay. Let's move to the password. Okay, changing everything to password. And the placeholder is choose a password. Okay, and the maximum length is going to be 30. Okay, so the second password is going to be the same thing. Okay, we're just going to change the ID and name of the input to password 2. And let's change this to confirm password, and the first one was choose a password for the label. And confirm password for the placeholder. Okay, so if we save and refresh the page, now we can see our inputs there. Okay, so everything looks fine. Okay. All right, now let's move to the footer and add our submit button. So we're going to create an input. Okay. And we're going to give it a class of button. Okay. And also to have this nice green styling, we're going to use the green class. Okay. So let's give it a name. sign up. So I'm going to use this in PHP code, and the type of the input is going to be submit. And let's add a value, sign up. Okay, so let's save and refresh the page. Okay, so we've got our sign up button there. The next button is supposed to say cancel. Okay, and we don't need the third button. So save and refresh again. Okay, and it all looks fine now. Now, if there is an error, once the user submits the form, it shows up right on top of the inputs of the form. Okay, so we're going to create a div right before the first input. Okay, and we're going to refer to that div when we write some JavaScript code, PHP and Ajax code later on. Okay, so this div is going to go just before the username input. Okay, and let's give it an ID, sign up message. Okay, and let's add some comments in there. Sign up message from PHP file. Okay, so we come back to this later. All right, now let's move to the login form. Okay. So what we're going to do, we're going to copy the sign up form code and then adjust the content to match the final login form. Okay. So let's copy the code from there. Okay, and paste it in there. Okay, so let's change the ID of the form to login form. Okay, the ID of the model to login model. All right, and to link the model to the login button, we're going to need to add a few attributes to that button. So here is the login link. So rather than using a data target, since this is a link, we're going to use the href attributes, and we're going to set it to the ID of the model, okay, which is login model. Okay, and also we need the data toggle attributes that we will set to model. Okay, so let's save and refresh the page. Let's make sure this is working so you can see our model there. So now we just need to adjust all the content to match the final login form. So we're going to have an email input, okay, and a password input. So first, let's change the title to login. Okay, and also we're going to have this div for login errors. Okay, so we're going to give it an ID, login message. Okay, and let's change that to login message from PHP file. Okay, and now if we go to the inputs, so the first inputs is going to be the email. So let's delete this one. So we're going to keep the email, but we will change the ID and name of the input to login email rather than email. Okay. Okay, and the placeholder, we can keep it email address or email. Okay, let's go for email. Okay, that's going to be labeled for login email. Now the password, we're going to do the same thing. Okay, so we're going to change password to login password, both the name and ID. Okay, and for the placeholder, let's go for password. Okay, and we can delete the second password as we don't need it. Okay. All right, now let's save and see how this looks like. Okay.